Okay, I had to click go live for some reason because it was early, maybe. Says we're live.
Is it showing us?
Maybe.
Like,
Are we live or are we not live? What the
here
hell?
we are. I see it. We're
Okay, welcome to Bam Fight Club again.
part two,
Part
525.
two. I have no idea how much of our last conversation actually made it onto the stream. We
None
briefly
possibly.
talked about Mike Tyson and talked about the Fury fight. And yep, we got chat is up. Hey Phil, how's it going? The chat is going, and holy shit, 20 minutes later it showed up on my phone too. So all right, he says we look good. All right, yeah. So like I said, we just talked about Tyson, talked about Fury. Welcome to Bam Fight Club, and now we're going to talk about UFC Fight Night. Lemos versus Andrade, taking place at the UFC Apex, Las Vegas, Nevada, April 23rd. Fight started at 3 p.m. Main card at 6 Pacific, and this fight card looks a little bit better than last week. Not that the fights last week were terrible by any means, but there's going to be some names that you recognize for sure. And we'll go ahead and jump into the first one. Lando Venata versus Charles Jourdain. Venata coming in as a plus 100, so even money, and Jourdain coming in as a negative 120 favorite. And I love watching Venata's fights because he has such a unique fight style. He's, his nickname is Groovy, and when you watch him fight, I think it totally fits him. He's got a very unique fight style. Seems like he's very hard to hit, very slippery guy, and looking forward to watching him fight again. What are your thoughts on this one, Fern?
Just breaking down the stats. Venata last win he had last fight was a decision win versus Gundy. He's 2-2 in his last fights. Four of them having been by decision. He lost to Bobby Green by decision. Really great, strong, powerful guy. Looking at some of his stats, he's got most of his wins by decision. Significant strikes. He's landing 4.6 strikes per minute. 44% of his significant strikes. Defense is the same. He's averaging one takedown per fight, which is good. It goes to show that he's ready to stand and fight in the middle of the ring. And you mentioned he's an exciting fighter. He to me has kind of like that build like Michael Chandler, who they have a wrestling foundation, but they just go forward. They love utilizing their hands and working that out the most. With Jourdain, his last fight was against I don't know how you say his last name, Ul, I don't know. And most of his wins are by KO, TKO. So it looks like it's going to be a fight on the feet for the most part. Um, a lot of there's no grappling as part of Jourdain's stats. He's got zero takedown average per 15 minutes. Like he just
Yeah,
likes to
that's
stand
crazy.
and trade. And his takedown defense isn't the greatest. It's about 50%. It's less than 50%. So he does have a decent submission average. So that might be his best bet if he takes it to the ground. Um, Definitely, like these are guys who have been on the map for a while. Fighting in the UFC. I don't think are either of them ranked.
That I don't think so. I'm not sure where those rankings are supposed to be to verify whether or not they are
Eh,
not ranked, or is it just not? I'm not looking at the right place. I don't think either of them ranked though. So, um, yeah, this should be a good fight. And just real quick, Caitlin in the chat, you missed the bit about Mike Tyson. We just briefly talked about how Mike Tyson beat the shit out of some dude on an airplane who was messing with him, and we're talking about how what's going what's going on inside of a guy's mind that you're sitting behind Mike Tyson and you just want to, give him crap and antagonize him to where he turns around and feels the need to punch you in the face. And Fern also made the point that I never thought I'd hear. He said that he thought Mike Tyson was in the right mind or something like that, and I thought I'd never hear that. So that was the catch up on Mike Tyson,
Tyson
and then
being the voice and actions of reason for once, and
yeah,
that's
the
great.
voice of reason.
He's maturing at 50 something years old, so that's great,
Yeah,
and it's great to see every fighter, come out in support of him and say, yeah, that's not okay that people, essentially talk and not expect any repercussions, any consequences, and um, with that, it kind of led us to talking about the boxing match tomorrow. Any of you guys who are boxing fans, tomorrow, Tyson Fury against White. It's expected to be 94,000 people in this stadium. That's going to be crazy. If you watch any boxing matches, or don't watch this one, it's going to be outrageous. I was telling Colby, a little known factor, it might be one of Tyson Fury's sound bites is he believes in an extreme amount of self pleasure in preparation for a fight. So that's just he's a very entertaining guy for any of you guys who've ever watched him. His fights against what's his name, Deontay Wilder, very entertaining. Boxing, I think, has one thing that UFC is lacking is those dramatic, over, ridiculous entrances to the ring. Like I love watching a boxing match because you feel like you get their life story before every match. And UFC, like especially for the main card, I feel like they just be like, "Hey, here's your next fight," and maybe they show them in the arena like the little preview, their little story, their build up. But in boxing, I feel like they definitely do a great job of marketing that, and then putting on a show as part of the entrance. Like I think Israel Adesanya has a very boxing esque entrance. He does his dancing, his music, all that stuff. I want to see more of that. Like that is super entertaining. Like these people have been working hard for like 8 to 10 weeks, put on a show, get in there, put on another show, and then hopefully you put on a show like Derek Lewis as you leave the ring.
yeah, yeah. That's a lot of entertainment. And yeah, you're right. For that much preparation, instead of just going into the ring and going for it, yeah, having a little bit of some entertainment and some fun in the lead up is cool to see. And so back to the UFC fight card. This next fight, we talked about the last 2 weeks, some crazy odds, and this one is Alexander Romanov versus Chase Sherman. Romanov coming in as a negative 1,500 favorite. This guy's odds of winning are better, I think, than Shevchenko's fights that she goes into. So, yeah, that's just crazy to see. Never see negative 1,500. I can't even. Can you recall the last time you've seen odds like that in a UFC
I
fight?
want to see maybe Anderson at one point, but I think like the highest I've seen or heard of was like minus 1,200 or something like
Yeah.
that. Not this. Like on UFC sites, it's like minus 1,300, but it's like minus 1,500 at this point.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. So I'm looking at the ESPN card. It's showing at negative 15. So this is crazy, and it's for a heavyweight fight where when it comes to heavyweights, anything can happen, and it's not like either one of these guys are super well established. I mean, they both got experience, but Romanov, granted, he's undefeated, but he's had 4 fights in the UFC. He's won 2 by submission, 1 by split decision, and his last fight he won by KO. Uh, so I don't know. To me, that's not too crazy. I mean, he's a great. Don't get me wrong. He's a great fighter, great grappler. But is that justified? I mean, maybe because Sherman's coming off of a 3-loss streak here. The last 3 fights, he lost against Arlovsky, he lost against Parker Porter, he lost against Collier in his last fight, lost in the first round due to submission. So, uh, and Sherman's also had 4 fights in the UFC. And Sherman's one of those guys a few times I think I've put money on him because he seems like the kind of guy who, with some refinement, can be a pretty good contender, heavyweight. He's moves pretty quickly. He's weighing right now about 249 pounds, but he seems like a pretty fast guy. Seems like he has pretty decent defense most of the time in the striking. He's got the height. He's at 6'4". He's got a pretty good reach, 78 inches. And yeah, what are your thoughts on this one, Fern?
yeah, just the fact that Romanov's undefeated and his last fight he won by what was it, TKO win versus Vanderaa. And even with that, Chase has the higher KO TKO ratio. Except for his last couple outings where he's come up short. What were they, decision losses? I'm assuming. Um, So hopefully this is good. We're getting another possible heavyweight contender who is a legit big boy. Both these guys are huge. I definitely see this, hopefully being a fight that stays on the feet where they try to knock each other out. This, size wise reminds me of Derek Lewis against Bam Bam. Like they're both massive. Like you're like, how is that cage holding on for dear life? Like like these guys, if there were additional weight classes, which a lot of people believe there should be, these guys would be the true heavyweights. I think a lot of people believe that there should be another weight class between 205 and 220, which should be really like small heavyweight or like, and then from 220 on super heavyweight. These guys are not getting anywhere close to light heavyweight. They're not getting down to what John Jones was able to get to at 205. And these guys will be the kind of guys that I hope can test those guys going up in weight, because there's weight classes for a reason. We saw Israel Adesanya trying to move up and do something, and he was nullified. Nobody has done that to him, and I didn't expect that to be done to him, to be controlled and held there. But yeah, these guys are legit heavyweights.
Yeah, so I'm predicting someone's gonna get. Well, let's say, do you think? Because we both think Romanov's gonna win,
Yes.
and the question is, do you think it'll be by KO, submission, or decision? Got to give some people something here
I
to
hope
for
it's
a
by
prop better.
KO. It wouldn't surprise me if them being big, it doesn't end in the first round, and then somebody gets a takedown and it's on the ground. Not very exciting.
Okay, I'm predicting a submission because Romanov is a grappler. Chase, I'm guessing that's going to be his game plan based on Chase probably not being quite at his level in terms of grappling, and so I'm guessing his camp is going to tell him to go in there, take him down, and get shut down the striking because I don't think Chase has a lot to offer on the ground. I mean, Chase, has he ever gotten a submission? No, yeah, it's just all KOs. He's been submitted a few times, so that's my prediction. I'm guessing he will be submitted second round.
Yeah, and Chase actually has is no takedown accuracy listed in his UFC record because he must not have ever attempted one.
Yeah, that's
There's like
crazy.
an empty stat. They didn't even put a zero. Oh. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's funny.
grappling wise, he looks like he's got decent grappling defense, 77% takedown defense. Um, yeah, and one interesting fact is Romanov being from Moldova. Like what? Like where that's great. It's another country. Like I think it'd be great to do a map of where we have fighters from and where we don't. Because Moldova is definitely he's probably the one guy. Like
Yeah, it's not known for international fighters fighting superstars for sure. So yeah, that is an interesting stat. Let's see who's up next. We got Macy Barber versus Montana De La Rosa. Barber coming in as a favorite at negative 175. De La Rosa coming in as a plus 150 underdog. Both of them coming in at 125 pounds. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this one, Fern?
Macy Barber had her last win, split decision against Maverick. De La Rosa, her last win was a TKO. De La Rosa seems to be more of a striker. Barber, I am not a fan of Barber. I, was happy to see her lose against what's her name, Roxanne Modafferi,
Yeah,
and that kind of has slowed her ascent. She believed she was going to be a young champion. Great. Everyone's got high hopes and dreams. I was happy to watch them be squashed. So,
yeah.
with
Actually, I think De La Rosa is actually a grappler. I see a bunch of submissions on her record. Uh, Macy Barber definitely is the stand up the
yeah,
striker.
ton of
She likes
submissions.
to just lower her head and just kind of swing, and she doesn't mind getting punched in the face also, which has happened a lot. But yeah, I remember De La Rosa a few of her fights, and yeah, I think she's got pretty good grappling skills. I think she's a pretty good wrestler. I think she's gonna probably want to take it to the ground because I don't think I think it's gonna be really hard to knock out Macy Barber just because she's kind of got that attitude of who she remind me of, Diego Sanchez. where it's just like, willing to throw down, ready to go to war, and Phil saying, "Yeah, I need that fight on the mat." Yeah, that's De La Rosa. Although I don't know if there's some kind of innuendo there uh, coming from the chat, but I'm looking forward to this one. And as far as the odds go, I'm guessing that you're rooting for De La Rosa. I actually, yeah, if I had to pick here, I'm actually going to pick the underdog, also De La Rosa. I mean, both of them are coming off a win. They have kind of similar stats in terms of their records in the UFC. They're both coming off of wins, and De La Rosa though coming off of a finish, and she has quite a few finishes on her uh, record. She's got a bit more experience.
Yeah, I wonder who all's in the division because I see Macy like here on UFC.com. It shows her ranking under her name as number 14, and I'm like, I couldn't tell you who is in that division besides two or three other people. So, uh, she's ranked. That's all that matters. And we'll see. I think she's somebody who could easily be a co-main event, main event. I think to me, obviously, she's polarizing to me. I don't care for her, but definitely when she was winning, it was exciting to have another name thrown in there. The way she was winning and coming onto the scene, I everyone thought she had a chance, and I think she thought more so than anyone. And she just has to put some work together, get some wins together, and be right back in there. Being number 14, she's not that far out of getting some, contender matches.
Yeah, and I mean her first few fights in the UFC were exciting because they were finishes against Hannah Cyphers, JJ Aldrich, and Jillian Robertson. Robertson being a more of a grappler. So I'm guessing that's probably why she's favored. She's gone against grapplers before and has ended up finishing them. But she did have that loss against Modafari, who, in my opinion, I feel like Jillian Robertson and JJ Aldrich both, are probably better competition. I mean, no offense to Modafari, because she's super experienced, but um, yeah, I'm going with De La Rosa on this one. I think she's going to be able to take it to the ground. How are the stats on defense with Macy Barber? Yeah, 66% on takedown defense. So De La Rosa, she takes, three shots, one of them gets through, it goes to the ground, and she's a submission artist. So yeah, my money's on De La Rosa.
Yeah, almost five times the submission average as Macy does. So I would expect that if it goes to the ground, takedown accuracy. It's funny she's got basically 1 in 3 takedown accuracy, and Barber's takedown defense is 2 out of 3. So all she
Yeah,
needs,
perfect.
like, this is how they make fights. Apparently, just look at the stats, like this that equals 3.
And man, this next fight, Clay Guida, I cannot believe this guy's still going. His record's 37-18 in MMA, and it's a complete even odds against Claudio Puelas. Clay Guida. Let's see. What was his last fight? Was against Leonardo Santos, win by submission. Before that, he had a split decision loss against Mark Madsen, who is a beast. He's got a win over Michael Johnson before that. So, after all this time, when did his first fight in the UFC was in 2006, and this guy is still going and still winning fights. He's already been inducted to the Hall of Fame, and he's still fighting in cards, which is crazy. Going against a guy who has 5 fights now in the UFC. So we got the young gun against the veteran Clay Guida. What are your thoughts on this one?
Guida all day.
Guida, all day.
Guida has just put on so many fights against so many great opponents. I think he's probably fought everyone, ranked 1 to 20 in the last since his career began, and him just. I think he came on the scene when like Diego did, and all them like just so many people have come through since then, and I'm glad to see him still fighting. Like I really haven't seen him be finished and stopped. Like he's lost, yeah, but that's better than losing by KO, TKO, which I feel like a lot of people who are from that generation of fighting are have all been knocked out multiple times. Only other person that I can think of that's fought that long and hasn't been knocked out is probably like Nate Diaz, and that's saying something. Everyone else has been finished. Claudio Puelles, interesting that he's from Peru. Like, where are they finding these fighters? Like, good, yeah, like get them out here, put on some good fights.
Yeah, yeah, another place where not a lot of international fight stars coming out of Peru, so that is cool to see. And Phil says Puelis is on a 4 fight win streak and a lot younger. Yeah, so in terms of conditioning, typically I would say when it comes to conditioning, you're going to go with a younger guy just because conditioning is so hard on the body, running and things like that in terms of knees. So as they get older, it's not even a matter of can they keep up? Can they do the kind of workouts that would get their conditioning, to that level? But with Clay Guida, we saw him fight not too long ago, and yeah, he's gone 3 rounds, not in his last fight, but in the 3 fights before that, he went all 3 rounds and seemed like he wasn't slowing down at all. So he's 40 years old, and it seems like his conditioning is not an issue. I don't know if you recall him ever seeing like he slowed down in a fight ever.
Never.
Never. Yeah. So, yeah, as far as the conditioning, I'm not sure if being younger is going to help him there. And yeah, Phil says he loves Clay Guida. He's a savage. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone does. And he's got that crazy hair. Every time he gets hit and his head flies back and his hair goes up, gives it that dramatic effect. Like it makes it look like he got hit 10 times harder than he actually did. So it's fun to watch his fights.
Yeah, while we're talking about Clay Guida, let's talk about our favorite victory of his. My favorite victory of his was against Takanori Gomi, who at the time was coming over from Pride Fighting after it was dissolved and absorbed by the UFC. Takanori Gomi had had great fights against, uh, beat everyone in Japan, was their champion, and came over and Clay Guida beat him by guillotine. And that was great because he essentially, they were like, let's see if these guys from other organizations can come over and their success translates to the UFC. And that was one of the first fighters I feel like they brought over to see, like, let's see how they do. And Guida, did a great job, finishing that fight with submission. And I'm still surprised by that victory. Gomi, is probably Hall of Famer in Japan, just beyond famous, and Guida beat him. So very good victory. My favorite Clay Guida victory.
All right. My favorite's going to be against Anthony Pettis for the Ultimate Fighter 13. Just because the buildup, I don't feel like they were necessarily super vicious towards each other because they're both pretty stand up guys. But uh, it's one of those things where you can more so than normal, you kind of get an insight and kind of develop that relationship of kind of getting to know a fighter over the course of several weeks leading up to a fight, which is really cool. One of the great things about the Ultimate Fighter is when the coaches end up fighting at the end. And so, yeah, and Anthony Pettis, obviously amazing fighter. So to have a win over him is a feather in the cap for Guida, and also one of the many reasons why he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, I'm sure.
How do you expect this to end up? I like
I think it's going to go the same way every Clay Guida fight. I don't see a finish necessarily. I think it's going to be scrappy. I think it's going to be there's going to be there's going to be some stand up. There's going to be definitely some takedown attempts. It probably will go to the ground a bit. There's going to be quite a few scrambles. So I guess this may be a test for Claudio on his cardio because Guida is not going to stop, and he's kind of got that grinding kind of style. So I feel like if anything, this is going to be a test on Claudio's conditioning. Does he have what it takes to keep that pace? And if he doesn't, he might have Clay in terms of speed, which a lot of the younger guys are going to have the edge when it comes to speed. So,
yeah.
Maybe Claudio will have the advantage in the stand up. Maybe Guida will have the advantage on the wrestling.
Yeah, I see that looking at their average fight time, it's about close. It's 12:28 to 12:33. So they've both fought, long battles and multiple times. I would say I'd give the advantage to Clay Guida. I feel like every fight of his is nonstop the whole time. Yeah, he might lose by
Yeah.
decision, but he was still swinging. He was still going for takedowns. He was still fighting back. Um, Claudio's got good 50% of his significant strikes landed. I don't know if I've seen such a high connection rate in a long time. Like, I don't That's crazy. 50% of significant strikes. Grappling wise, they have the same exact takedown accuracy, takedown defense. Clay's is a little bit better. I always kind of thought of him as of kind of a wrestler, but he doesn't go for that. I'd say he would be the kind that I would compare more to like a ground and pound. He's not a lay and pray or whatever they call it. Um,
Yeah,
he's definitely just always looking to keep it moving and wearing people out the whole time. You know, with his
yeah,
wild man hair.
that's why I'm curious because I don't recall Claudio's other fights if he's had this, what's going to be this fast of a pace of a fight for 3 rounds straight. That's why I feel like it'll be a good test for him. But as always, it's going to be a good fight because Clay Guida's in it, and looking forward to it. And on to the last fight, Amanda Lemos versus Jessica Andrade. Lemos coming in as a plus 190 favorite against Andrade negative 230. Or no, sorry, Lemos is the plus 190 underdog against Andrade, the negative 230 favorite, which I think makes sense. Andrade, absolute beast, has the recently lost to Shevchenko, but has the win over Chukagian, Calvillo. Uh, let's see. Her 3 losses are to Weili, Namajunas, and Shevchenko. So, and she changed weight classes not too long ago. But other than that, she also knocked out Rose Namajunas by slamming her on her head. She's got wins over Tisha Torres, uh, Gedalia, Angela Hill, Joanne Wood. I mean, she is definitely one of the best. Not quite the best in terms of she's had that championship belt for what she never defended it. She won it against Rose, but she never ended up defending it. So yeah, she definitely has the championship mindset, and she's definitely right in the very tip top of the either division that she's in now or the one she was in before. But just not quite. She's not quite a Shevchenko, not quite a Weili. It's really close. And as far as Lemos goes, she had that win against Angela Hill in her last fight, which I thought was really close. So based on that last fight, I think Angela Hill not being quite at the level that Andrade is, and Lemos being so close in that last fight, I do think the edge is going to be with Andrade. And Andrade has got that power. And if you recall in the last fight, Lemos, she seemed to kind of rely on her power when it comes to striking to really put the hurt on to Angela Hill, but she couldn't put Angela Hill away. So I feel like 2 power strikers. It's probably going to be an exciting fight, but I think the edge is definitely with Andrade on this one.
Definitely. I think that'll be one of the top highlight reel KOs of a while. Like if we're thinking about women's, we're thinking about that spinning back elbow a couple weeks ago. That's gonna be
Yeah,
forever. And then this slam because I thought she was losing. I'm pretty sure the consensus was that she was losing up until that point.
to
And
Rose.
yeah, and Rose had fought
Yeah,
off that takedown with the Kimura and had gotten through it a couple times and then just didn't let go on this one and just got slammed. Like
yeah. But that's the thing. Like her power is it can overcome a lot of deficits in other areas for sure because she definitely didn't have the speed of Rose or of Weili, uh, but she definitely has knockout power. And it's going to be interesting going against another, power striker. Andrade's coming in a little bit shorter, a little bit on height and reach. And, Andrade, I think, does do a bit more wrestling, has a little bit better takedown average. They both have not a lot of subs on either of their records. Uh, yeah.
wow, Lemos has 58% of her significant strikes landed, and Andrade has 50%. So wow, these girls are landing more than the guys.
Yeah.
These women, sorry, like somebody's gonna text me. I get texts all the time, like, "Oh, you called it a girl fight. Sorry, woman fight," and rightfully so. And let's hope like these have all been living up. So yeah, they deserve that moniker. I think more so, some of the men's fights should be called boy fights because they're pretty disappointing lately. So I will work
Well,
on that.
I'll have respect for anyone that goes in there for sure. But yeah, there are definitely some fights where they don't really live up. And another thing to take into account, Lemos is ranked number 10. Andrade ranked number 1. So Andrade is the number 1 contender. It's kind of interesting, I guess, that she's getting this fight against Lemos. I'm curious if someone else booked with Andrade and drop out, and Lemos is like a last minute replacement or something, or like I'm trying to get the reasoning of Lemos versus Andrade. I wonder if it's just because Lemos is on a. I mean, Lemos lost her first fight in the UFC, but otherwise she's on a 5-fight win streak. So maybe just because she's done so hot to get against Angela Hill in her last fight.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. But it's funny. Like I don't think anyone is technically picking her over it. But it's a great stylistic matchup. Lemos has 87% takedown defense. That's pretty great. I mean, like to have that good of a takedown defense, it means that I think people see her as a striker and then try to be like, oh, I'm gonna take her down because she doesn't have the ground skills. But she's able to be like, nope, shoot you back up and then blast your face off. Love it.
Yeah, and she Lemos does have she has takedown average. She averages a little over 1 takedown per fight, which I feel like if you're a striker, I feel like there's a optimal amount of takedowns that you need to shoot in every match because you need to get that other person thinking about the takedown to really open up the strikes. I feel like it gives a big advantage. So I really like that stat of her attempting 1 to 2 takedowns per match when she's a striker. I mean, Andrade, her takedown average is 2.9 and she's a power striker. So, she's definitely got that covered. But yeah, I like to say that on both of them being known for their striking, but they both still mix in those takedowns, which are, super important.
Definitely. And, with this fight, it could be a complete upset. What are the odds on this one? I think it didn't show. Does it show it on
Negative
you?
230 for Andrade, plus 190 for Lemos.
Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be. They're both Brazilian, right? Yeah, Brazil.
They are, yes, both from Brazil.
That's gonna be awesome. We're gonna see some Brazil flags, some one person at least
Peru,
from Moldova. You know, there's always
Moldova.
gonna be the one person who's representing whatever random country is fighting, and they'll zoom in on him right away, like, he's got the one fan from Moldova.
Who flew to Las Vegas? All right, yeah. So this is gonna be a fun card, and yeah, do we got any questions in the chat? Caitlin saying, "Way to go, Fern." Women's fights,
Women's
clap, clap.
fights. Yep, I acknowledge my faults, and we'll work on them. Because at this point, they're knocking top opposition out, and they easily work me. No, no ifs, ands, or buts. Like they are
Yeah,
beating up champions like Andrade. Rose, the fact that she did that to Rose, and Rose has, since that comeback, just been tearing everyone apart, just goes to show, like, yeah, they can easily beat most men. I don't
yeah.
think, yeah, and including myself. So I need to watch my mouth and learn and improve.
All right. Well, looking forward to these fights, and make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe, and join us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the other places that we are. I don't even know all the places we are. Anything else you want to say, Fern?
Thanks to Jamaica, because according to our stats, Jamaica was like our number one fan a couple weeks ago, and Argentina still. We are working on improving our content and reaching more people. Hopefully, we're trying to think of doing a Spanish broadcast one day with Colby's wife, who is bilingual, and reaching that a target audience. But for now, thanks for joining us. Watch that boxing match tomorrow, Tyson Fury. That's going to be on before these fights, and just have a day full of fights, And follow us, like our posts, share everything, especially on YouTube.